Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Common Sense with Conn radio call-in talk show on KTEM AM on your radio dial. Uh, our phone number here, in case you want to call in and give us something to talk about, our call-in number here is 773-1400. That's 773-1400. Now, if you want to call in and become a sponsor on the show or help the show in some way, that phone number is 254 300 1885.
And that would be greatly appreciated, as next week is looking like it may be our last show.
Yeah, it just takes money to pay KTM for the airtime that we use on this show. So, without money, well, we can't pay KTM, and we can't pay KTM, and they're going to say adios, goodbye. And that may be coming up. So, for those of you who like the show, well, we're going to have some sponsors. So, that number here again is 300-1885.
254 300 1885. And also, if you want the address, we can give you a mailing address, which is P.O. Box 34, Davila, Texas, 76523. That's 76523. And I want to send out a huge thank you, how much we appreciate each and every one of you who have been calling and wanting to buy a hat, which we have gladly, provided you. But instead of paying the $30 or $35 for the hat, they have contributed, a lot more money on each one of these purchases of the hats. And we just can't tell you how much that means to us, and keeping the show on an extra week. So they have enabled that to happen.
Yeah, and I can't say enough good things about people who like the show well enough that they put their money where their mouth is. And that's, I'm not good at asking for money. Everybody knows that. But like I say, KTM needs money, and so that's what it takes. We've got a caller on the line. His name is Mike. And Mike, what do you think today?
Well, I'm sure glad to hear you.
Well, thank you.
We're still here.
We're glad you called in.
What I want to know is, what do you think about the way Trump handled the Iran affair this week?
Well, I applaud him for what he did.
Me too.
Because he made a threat. He's serving notice to those people that, we're not going to use the mother of all bombs on you today, but you do the same thing and kill an American citizen, and you might better remember those propane bombs that they dropped in Syria here about a year ago, because that wasn't the last bomb like that we've got. See,
Yeah.
we don't have to use a nuclear weapon. Donald Trump used those propane bombs, and it was very, very effective. So we can do that again.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and at some point, the reason I agree with Trump is when you got a bully on the high school bullying smaller students, you've only got two choices. You can run from him or you can run at him. That's only two choices you got.
That's right.
So Donald Trump is serving notice. You keep this up, folks, and we're not going to run from you. We're going to run at you. And you're not going to like it when we do. Now, he's coming from a position of strength, not cowardness.
Oh, I know it.
Barack Obama came from a position of cowardness, and
That's right.
you see what it got.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can imagine those people knew those planes were in the air. And you can just see it in your mind's eye, them running for cover.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guarantee you, when they heard that he called them back, there was a big sigh of relief.
Well, don't be confused though, okay?
Well, I'm not.
These countries, particularly Iran, has no qualms about having X amount of their citizens killed. They're all expendable. Everybody has an active part in serving Allah, and this is theirs.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's why it makes them so dangerous to us. If you're talking about hurting someone from Germany or England or India, those people don't want to die. They want to keep living. But a lot of these Islamic people, they think that they're going to go up there and get 72 virgins or whatever it is they think. They are ready to die, but they want to take us with them. Yeah. So you can threaten them with death, and it's not the same as threatening someone from Australia or Ireland with death. It's different.
Well, I know it. Yeah.
So you have got, when you threaten someone from Iran or some of these Islamic country people, when you threaten them, you better have your finger on the trigger, and you better mean what you say and say what you mean. And I think that's what Donald Trump is. I think he says what he means and means what he says.
I think it was a real brilliant move he made.
Oh, I do
too.
He
showed them that he was going to do it, and then changed his mind. Next time he may not change his mind.
Well, particularly with the cabinet pushing him to do it, and he's been standing firm. No matter what he does, as far as Congress goes, he can't make them happy. He's either going to be a weak coward or he's going to be overzealous and crazy, But the fact that he could restrain himself. I'm sorry, I've been sick this weekend. Restrain himself in reacting instead of responding, is a good thing. It shows him to be really strong, because he can always nail him tomorrow.
That's right.
To put this in kind of simple terms, Mike, I guess I'm kind of simple-minded, but I was just talking to my son David about what kind of a pistol to recommend to people to buy. And I said, well, especially if it's a lady, I recommend that she buys a revolver, not an automatic. Because one thing, the revolvers are more simple, and the automatic, it can have a safety on and you don't know it or whatever. But another point I like to make there is, if you threaten somebody with a revolver and then you conk that hammer, when they hear that thing go click, click, they know that you mean what you say. And I think that's the way Donald Trump is. When he says, we're going to hit you, it gets their attention. If it don't, they're a pure idiot, because, like I say, he proved in Syria that he will use some of those propane bombs, and it doesn't pollute the atmosphere. It doesn't kill people across the borders. It just kills what they want to kill. And he hadn't forgot how to do that yet. So anyway, I do approve of what he did, Mike. That's the answer to your question. And I sure do appreciate your phone call, because that was a good question.
Well, hopefully you give us a call next week.
I'll do it.
I appreciate phone calls that cause us to think. And that's what we're doing here.
All right, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank y'all.
Have a good weekend.
All right. Same to you. Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, here we are back on the... there's several subjects that I was going to bring up today. And good callers like Mike kind of derailed me from what I was going to talk about, but it was a good subject and a good question, and I appreciate his question. What do we think of what Trump has just done? Now, we're just discussing on another show the tariffs that Trump has put on China and how that's going to affect our economy. Well, I think it will affect our economy, but I have a question about Red China and our economy. Go down to Walmart, TSC, any store you want to go to in town, and just pay attention to how many American-made products you see in there as opposed to the made in China products you see. Now, the tariffs that Trump is talking about on China might slow down some of our dependence on Chinese made products. My thought about that is let's look further down the road, folks. Let's don't just look at what's right before our nose. Let's look at further down the road. What happens if we don't slow up our dependence on China?
It's the same thing as dependence on oil.
Yeah.
They have us by the throat.
So, but I'm
So,
afraid
but
that
if you were talking about if we had to go to war with them or go to war to somebody else, and they wanted to cut us off, and they wanted to use tariffs or some other thing against us, that we would be powerless because we can't manufacture anything of our own on our own. And this was a problem back in World War II.
yeah.
Yeah, that that all the ladies had to go to work, and they had collection of cans and all kinds of things and cooking oil and whatnot, and we were scraping everything we could from the bottom of the barrel to be able to fund this war.
A good example is England. When Germany threatened to invade England, England had no guns to defend themselves with. That's why they had volunteers in America. They had gun drives where farmers and ranchers and city people, whoever, would donate a gun to be sent to England so they could defend themselves. So, and that, England stepped in it. They shot themselves in the foot by totally abolishing gun ownership in England. Well, I'm using that same thinking about our total dependence on Red China for our steel, our aluminum, our uh, tools at Walmart, whatever it may be. Go to the auto parts store, try to buy a clutch for your truck, and ask them where it's made. It's made in China. Try to buy a brake part, ask them where it's made. It's made in China. Okay, so are we going to travel this road until we get to the point where if we do have to go to war with Red China or have some kind of a conflict, can they then threaten us? Okay, if you don't like what we're doing, we will stop sending you anything.
Well, here's
Then would that cripple America?
okay. So here's a far out stretch for the conspiracy theorists, out there in the audience. Okay, what about nanobots and things like that they may put into the food? You know how much food comes from China to us that we eat? Okay, what if they're just changing it, the DNA cellular level, where it's causing more and more cancer and causes us to die faster, so there are less of us for them to conquer. We are so dependent on so many other countries. We sell ourselves out. We don't take care of ourselves first, like Trump's trying to get us to do. So we are at the mercy of all these countries if they want to turn on us or if they have long laid plans. And people turn around and they go, well, what are you talking about, long laid plans? Nobody would ever do that. Okay, so let's talk about the Muslims. Okay, you know how many years they've been planning, practicing, and executing taking over the United States and Western Europe and stuff like that?
Well, and killing Christians.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, talking about decades and decades and decades. They have tons of patience.
So how is it that we are so willing to shoot ourselves in the foot? You know,
Money. It's all
another
about money.
another analogy that I use sometimes is if you see someone dying of cancer, then would you turn around and say, "Can you give me some of that?" How stupid do you have to be?
I don't know. Raymond's on the phone.
Yeah, better. Raymond, you gonna figure this out for me?
Yes, sir. I was just going to make a brief comment concerning the United States of America and defending it. Before you know it, this society is going to be full of obese people. All these kids that are going to be our future into the upcoming 10, 15 years from now. All these video games they play, they don't have no interest in getting out there finding them a job, trying to
You know where
learn
those
something.
video games originated from, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying, how is a big fat slob gonna even enter the military to protect this country.
No,
We're
I
gonna
agree.
have a bunch of people like that, and it's gonna be uncalled for because everybody's lazy and don't want to do nothing. And that was my comment. And y'all have yourself a good day, sir. Thank you.
You too.
Well, thank you, Raymond.
But you know, so many of these video games are made in Asia, okay, and manufactured and sold here. Very few of those games are made stateside, okay. So what are they doing? What have they been teaching our kids for the last 20 years? You know, they've been teaching them to be lazy, fat, not go outside, not be physical.
Well, but how much responsibility do parents have? You know, you can manufacture all the video games you want to, but if your parents don't
Are playing
say,
right beside you,
you know,
sitting on the couch playing right beside you.
if your parents don't say, get off that couch and get out here and pull these weeds in the yard or
And
wash
now-
my car or
And
do
now
something.
legally smoking pot on the couch right beside you while you're playing your video games.
Yeah. So, you know, what responsibility do parents have in this country or in any country? We just had just saw a video of a 7-year-old little girl.
Who's Chinese? Well, I'm assuming she's Chinese. She is
Well,
Asian.
She's Asian of some kind, but she sang the national anthem at a soccer game. I think
It's
it
a soccer
was.
game. She's from LA, and she's been all over the internet.
But I just think the world of that little girl. I really appreciate what she did, but by the same token, who taught her? What kind of parents did she have? Her parents need a duty button of some kind because the parents is what produced that 7-year-old young lady that is just tremendous.
Yeah, she can outsing any adult. I mean, she does not have a child voice by any means, and quite a range.
But back to what Raymond is saying, we are raising girly men. We're not raising men's men. You know, we are so obsessed with toxic masculinity and all that kind of brainwashing.
We don't even have women or men, for that matter, that can wash dishes in the sink anymore. They have to have a dishwasher.
Well,
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
just go down to Walmart or wherever and just look around and observe people. How many people do you see now? And Raymond was talking about men more than women because men is supposed to be the ones that fight the next war or
Traditionally.
defend the lady or defend their homeland or anything else. So we're mostly talking about men here, but just take note as you go down to Walmart or wherever. Look at how many people you see that are
Completely inept.
25 years old and 200 pounds overweight. Just observe that. Observe how many men you see that have arms like toothpicks and a great big belly. Is that who's going to defend the ladies or the families or the country or anything else? No. And as we produce more of those kinds of people, what is in the future for us? But my message is to parents.
We are an inept society, completely inept society at this point. Unless you're an older folks and you can still get around and handle a few things, everybody that's younger for the most part is inept.
Well,
And culturally, we're in bad straits.
I'm just trying to wake up people that whether you're talking about tariffs on Red China and total dependence on Red China and their production, if we allow Red China to continue to produce everything that we consume in America, then at some point, folks, there's going to be a new slave master, and the slave master is going to be Red China, and we are going to be the slaves. Is that the road we want to travel? Is that what we want to do in this country? Because that may be the end result of what we're talking about here. Now, folks, I think we're going to break, so I'm going to shut up here for just a second or two, but y'all just hang in there or pick up your phone and call us, and we'll be right back in just a moment. Feel free to call in, and we'll discuss it, whatever you want to talk about. What we're talking about right now is Tina was reading a talk given by John Wayne.
Actually, it was excerpts of a part of the speeches that he gave during the movie of the Alamo.
But what it basically was about men being men and defending the Alamo, World War I, World War II, whatever it was. But what I fear is the progressives and the left that want to change America, they have no interest in seeing us raising masculine men. They want to see us produce girly men or whatever you want to call them, but those who can't or won't fight. Well,
Well, I thought,
I don't want to ever encourage fight, but
but there's
I
different
want to
ways to do
encourage
that.
us to have people that will fight because if we don't have anyone that will fight or will stand up to defend this country or their family or anything else, then what are we?
Well, I mean, it's kind of this one part is kind of like where we are now. We're kind of empty. Our souls have been kind of drained, and it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Well,
And he stipulates. He says, "Well, I'm not empty anymore." And that's what's important is to feel useful in this old world and hit a lick against what's wrong for what's right, even though you may get walloped. There's right and there's wrong, and you got to do one or the other. So if you do one, you're living. If you do the other, you're walking around dead.
well, and you're walking around scared half to death of everything, and we are producing a society that lives in fear. I keep saying that we've got leadership and others, college professors, whatever it may be. We've got leadership that has never been on a horse, never got throwed, and never had to get back on.
Never did
And
without
I am,
electricity or running water or
yeah,
buying food at the grocery
they've
store.
never been without anything. They never got slapped upside the head and had to take it. But here's Pat on the phone, and he's going to explain some of this for us. Yeah, Pat.
No, I'm going to change the subject.
Oh, okay. We can do that too.
Thank you, Conn. I was just wondering if AOC, after she throws around the words concentration camp, has ever been to one.
No.
I have been to Dachau, and I would never call anything else a concentration camp.
Well, Pat, what we are, the left likes to
She's walking
put
hyperbole.
put a new meaning on words. Just for example, you don't say lie anymore. You say he might be disingenuous. Well, what's wrong with just saying he's a lying dog? As opposed to saying, well, he might possibly be a little bit disingenuous. Who knows what you're talking about? Why don't you, now, her
Just
talking
soft-pedaling.
about the concentration camps, she does not have a clue what she's talking about.
I didn't figure she'd ever been to one, and if she had, she would have given second thought to those words.
Well,
But-
you do understand that most of everything that comes from her mouth is something that has been written for her. It's orchestrated. She's a puppet.
But, whatever she is, somebody was idiot enough to vote her into office. She now serves in the U.S. Congress, and I didn't put her there, but somebody did. So my question is, when are the people of New York going to wake up to what I won't use the word, but what she is? And if you think she's a friend of the United States and of the Republic of the United States of America, if you think she's a friend to freedom and this Judeo-Christian society we live in, if you think that's what she is, you're dead wrong. She is committed to destroying this country.
I agree.
You are dead right, sir.
Well, I just say what I think and think what I say. But why aren't the people of New York recalling her?
Oh,
Well, look at their mayor and their governor. They're happy with them for the most part.
Yeah, look at the. I have said before, is insanity contagious? Is mental illness contagious?
Well,
Uh,
it's all about the money there.
Well, it's about the money and the greed and the self-serving people who want to protect themselves, their position, and their money. They don't want to protect this republic. They don't want to protect this great society we live in. And I get about half stirred up, and I don't apologize for that. I love America. I am a nationalist, and I was born white. And if that makes me a white nationalist, so be it. I'm not ashamed of loving this country and loving the freedom and liberty that we have here in this greatest nation in the history of the world.
You go, Conn.
Well, that's it. See, you done got me started, Pat.
Thanks for taking my call.
Well, yeah.
Thanks for calling in, Pat.
Yeah, thank you a lot, and thanks for getting me stirred up.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, it's good, though, to know that I'm not alone. We got Pat out there, and we got Mike, and we got Raymond and people like that makes me realize that I'm not by myself in this fight. There's some others out there, too. So, at any rate, there's so many things to talk about today. I'm not sure where to get started.
Well,
but
we were also talking about China hacking all those medical records.
yes.
And we got another call coming in. And that they were actually going to weaponize them like they're doing against their own people. They were going to do them against our people because they were pinpointing different people in different positions that they could blackmail with information that they've gathered so they could have a tool to get accomplished whatever they wanted to get accomplished in the government or the grid or whatever it is.
Well, and I am just afraid that we're going to be so worried about the tariffs causing some amount of financial harm to us that we're willing to bow down to Red China. And Tina was just talking about they're harvesting medical records from the United States. Pretty soon they're going to own every medical record on everybody here. Now, if 10 years from now you want to run for a public office, are they going to be able to threaten to use some of those medical records against you?
Or they want you to vote a certain way?
Yeah, will they blackmail you with your medical records, whatever that may be? I'm just saying, I'm not willing to kowtow to Red China because they might hurt us financially. I've been hurt financially before. I got over it. And I am quite sure that the United States will get over it also. But what we will not get over, if Red China produces so much of the goods that we consume in this country that they can then blackmail us or then threaten us with stop sending us all those products that we then cannot manufacture on our own in this country. What if we went to war with Red China? What if we didn't produce any steel, aluminum, tools, anything that you use to build military equipment? If you are totally dependent on those products coming from Red China, then how are we going to defend ourselves? I endorse what Donald Trump is doing as far as tariffs on Red China. I hope he continues to stand up to Red China, Iran, or anyone else that threatens us in any way.
But you think as much as he's been doing over the last 2 years and being the example that he stood up to everybody, everything, and all of his enemies that have been attacking him on a daily 24/7 basis, and he's still standing and barely looks any worse for wear compared to when he, was running for election, that he would be a great example for those in office, those that are going to be in office, to have that kind of backbone. But instead, you still see this huge differentiate between him and the rest of our culture.
Well, and let's compare what Donald Trump is doing to what his predecessors did. They drew a line in the sand Then when the enemy stepped over the line, they just ignored it and went on and drew another line in the sand further down the road. Well, if you keep drawing lines in the sand and then ignore it when the folks step over it, what good is the line in the sand? If you don't say what you mean and mean what you say, you have taught your opposition to ignore what you say. Now, we've got Lenore on the phone, and she's going to help explain all this to us. Are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I was listening to your sentiment about the Alamo and the kind of people that defended the Alamo, and that's what we need. Boy, do I agree about that. Those are the people that we need to help stand up for us.
Yes, and those people are fast disappearing in this country.
Oh, that's sad.
And, I like to remind people when I have, or when I hear about someone, some Hispanic that's demanding that Mexico owns Texas. When I hear that kind of talk from someone of Hispanic descent, I like to remind them, why don't you go down to the Alamo, walk in there, and look up on the left side of the wall at the names of the people that died in the Alamo?
Oh, yes, I've been there.
Well,
I was born in San Antonio.
Me too.
Oh, well, hello.
Hi.
Well, I just like to remind people that those people with a Mexican surname, they did not die for Mexico, folks. They died for Texas.
Yes.
They died for freedom. They died for rights. They died for liberty. They died to not be suppressed. They died to not be in fear every single day.
Oh, yes. Keep up the good work. I love your show.
Well, we will through next week. We'll see what happens after that, but we're trying.
All right. Well, I'm hanging up now. Keep it up.
Thanks,
Well,
Laura.
thank you for the call, and don't lose the phone number.
Oh, I won't. I got it written down in a big print.
Oh, good.
Good. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, back on to what we were talking about. I don't know if it was tariffs or manliness or toxic masculinity.
Well, while you're thinking about your notes, I'll bring up this part. Did you hear that since she brought up the border and stuff, or you brought up the border, that they had a cyber attack on the U.S. Customs Border Protection subcontractor? And so they have now been able to look at, and they've now put them up on the dark web, over 100,000 files of photographs and blueprints and all kinds of things of the security cameras, security layout systems for all the ports and some of the military bases, the type of equipment that we're using, the placement of it, and all that. So that's now out on the dark web for all to see and all to use in some kind of criminal means.
Well,
So-
and I want to try to clarify some of the people running for president, like Beto. They won't open borders. In the last month, according to Tom Homan on the news, in the last month they stopped 45,000 crossing the border.
Well, they have
From-
52 countries.
From 52 different countries. We're talking about people from not just Mexico or Honduras or Guatemala. We're talking about people from Libya or Syria
Africa.
or Russia or wherever. But some of these folks are not good people. They're not coming here to try to help sustain freedom in the United States. They're coming here to destroy the United States.
And they're not getting here on their own either.
No, they're being paid by folks like George Soros, etc. One
What's his name?
caravan
Steve something?
from South America, 70% of the caravan were males between the age of, 15 and 20
Soldier
or
age.
something like
Soldier
that.
age.
They were all military age males. Now, we need to wake up and pay attention, folks. If those politicians who won't open borders, if they get their way, there is not going to be any America. Is that what we want? So those politicians who advocate open borders, what is their goal for America? Is their goal to keep America the strongest, freest nation in the history of the world? No. No, their goal is to destroy this country. Is that what we want? So why on earth would I consider voting for Beto O'Rourke or any other Democrat that seems to be hell bent on destroying this country?
Well, and what about all the illegals that they're going to deport? The ICE is going to deport now.
Okay, let's talk about that just a minute. The liberal press would have you believe that all of those people that ICE is going after are just innocent little children. Well, now, wait a minute. They have been tried and convicted and have been deported. Then they got loose and they're running around loose here in the United States. That's who ICE is looking for.
Or their visa. I mean, their papers are up. They didn't show up for court, or their visas are up.
Okay,
and they didn't leave.
But let's call them what they are, folks. These are not 3-year-old little kids. These are fugitives from the law. If you have someone who goes to court and is convicted of burglary or murder or whatever else it is, and then he escapes, he is a fugitive. Well, these people are fugitives from the law because the court has sentenced them to be deported. Get out of here. And then they run and hid. So they are fugitives.
And
why don't we call them fugitives?
But then the media and the sanctuary cities are telling the media to put out there, don't open your door, hide, all this stuff. And they are helping them. So what kind of, is that aiding and abetting a criminal?
No, I think they see them as future voters.
But it's still illegal, I would think. In some capacity, it would have to be illegal. But that's in my world, not the current world.
In the state of Texas, they just discovered 92,000 illegals that voted in the state of Texas.
Wow.
Now, that was according to Ken Paxton. And they're discovering millions and millions of illegals that are voting in the United States. And now you've got states like New York that wants to give a driver's license to all illegals here.
Well, they passed that bill, but now they've got some lawsuits again to trying to stop it from going into effect, and the clerks and stuff say that they're not going to enforce it supposedly because it goes against the federal government's law or federal law.
I kind of wish they would do that because after you give an illegal a driver's license, if he is someone who has been deported and is still here, then it's going to be pretty simple for ICE to go look at the driver's license, pick out his name and his address, and go get him. So in a way, what they want, they're shooting themselves in the foot. But suits me. Whatever it takes to get them out of here suits me just fine. And I know that there are some good, innocent families that are involved in this. But you have got to draw the line somewhere. You have got to enforce law in the United States. Because if you do not enforce law, then you don't have a law.
And this is so that we can have legal immigration, so we know who's coming in, so that we don't have more people coming in than what we can care for and produce for, so that we don't overburden our system.
Well, and if you want to ignore law, okay, let's ignore the law that says you can't commit burglary, you can't commit rape, you can't commit murder. Are we going to be a totally lawless society? Is that the road we're traveling? Is that what we want to do in America? I think that would suit some of the bleeding heart progressives. But you better think about what you're asking for, folks. When you start seeing more and more criminals, more and more lawless, more and more people that ignore the law, is that the road we want to travel? Yeah, I keep asking the question, I guess. Maybe I do it too much, but if I go over here and hit Interstate 45 and I head south, I'm going to wind up in Houston whether I want to go there or not. I'm not going to wind up in Dallas. If I go south, I'm going to wind up in Houston. Okay, what road are we traveling in this country with all of this progressive stuff they're putting on us? What road are we traveling? What is the destination of this road? The destination of this road is, if we have open borders, we have people flooding into our country, we're not going to have a country anymore. We're not going to have a society with laws and law abiding people. We're going to have a country of chaos and people that don't obey the law, don't respect the law. And why would you want to respect it if nobody enforces it? So it doesn't matter if it's the immigration law or the burglary law or the rape law or the murder law. You either are a country of law or you're not.
So explain this to me, okay? This article on ABC News says cities like Los Angeles, Baltimore, and Chicago immediately fired back, saying that they would not cooperate with the raids and warned residents to make sure that they had functional locks on their doors. Residents are not required to open their doors to officials from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement unless they have a warrant signed by a judge.
Well, if they've got a warrant signed by a judge, they can kick the door down. But and we don't want.
I'm assuming that this is just flipping language around, just as scare tactics, saying, "Oh, well, most of these people, they're not going to have a warrant for them; they just want to pick them up."
Well, if they have already been deported, they have already had a judge.
They've already gone through their deportation trial.
They've already had their day in court.
If that's what you're saying.
They applied,
not physically deported.
Yeah, they applied for citizenship, I guess you'd say, or no, they applied for asylum, and they were denied asylum by a court of law. So, in other words, the court of law said, no, we're going to deny you asylum, now get out of here. Well, they did not voluntarily leave, so if you want the law to have any teeth in it and to mean anything, then you have to deport them. It comes back to the same thing. You either have the law or you don't have the law. Do you want to be a lawless society, or do you want to be a society that has law, has regulation? Because the alternative to law and regulation is chaos. Is that what we want? Is that the road America wants to travel? I don't. I kind of like America being the freest, greatest nation in the history of the world. I like it, and I want to keep it that way. Other people want to destroy that.
Well, we got a few minutes before the hard break, so how about some good news? Well, semi-good news.
Yeah, say something positive.
Yeah. So the House Democrats released a $4.5 billion border aid package. Of course, it has some of their little twists, turns, and knife stabbings in it, but there is some money in there to kind of give some relief to part of the agencies and part of the cities that have been housing, and supplying medical and this and that, trying to reimburse them. However, I mean, just little crappy things like the long-term, let's see, quelling some concerns among Democrats, the bill includes language requiring temporary detention facilities to meet the same standards as long-term facilities within 12 months. Okay, here's the little quirk. Rather than 14 months, the 14-month deadline stated in the Senate bill. Okay, so they just get their 2 little month thing, just anything they could do, their little dig, But then later in here, it says that the House bill provides $50,000 less for Executive Office of Immigration Review than the Senate measure, and it leaves out $61 million that the Senate approved to remedy a pay shortfall at ICE, and $3.7 million for ICE deportation costs. Really? Because they don't want them deported. And $21.3 million for ICE investigation work because they want their hands tied.
Well, and think about that. If
and they want all these people to quit. all these agents to quit.
If they agree we should deport them, but they don't want to furnish any money to deport them with, then that's kind of like saying, don't deport them, leave them here. Well, here again, is their objective to destroy this country?
Well, the House doesn't want them deported.
That's
why they're they're handcuffing them.
Well, I just keep saying, and I sound like a broke record, but there ain't but two sides in this fight, folks.
The right and the wrong.
There's God and there's Satan. There is right and there's wrong. There is good and there's evil. But the Democrats want to cloud up everything in the middle so that there's no defined right and wrong. You can't you can't have it both ways. You've either got to have right or wrong. You've either got to have God or Satan. You've either got to have freedom or tyranny. Which do you want? Now, if you want to continue the republic, the constitutional republic called America, if you want to continue that, that's good.
Okay, so
if you want to destroy it, that's something else.
Again, verbalize the difference between a republic and what they are calling the United States now, the way they want to view it.
Yeah, democracies do not last very long because at any time that the public finds out they can vote themselves benefits, they will destroy that society. That is a democracy, where that 50 plus 1 vote passes a statute or a law. Under a republic, you are not governed by popularity. You're governed by a set of laws. In this country, we call it the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. That's what governs this country, and you cannot change that at the whim of the people who want more benefits, more welfare, more whatever. That's the difference between a democracy and a republic. And how many folks know the difference?
Well, we're getting ready to go to a hard break, so y'all get ready to call in when we come back. It'll be about 5 or 6 minutes. The number here is 254-733. Is it 733 or 773? I can't remember. What is it?
773-1400.
Say it again.
773-1400.
There you go. We'll see you on just the other side of the break in just a few minutes. Thanks.